you're listening to The Movie Raid.
It's time for the movie rating. Tonight's victim is Clayton Rhoner, actor that played in April Fool's Day, The Human Centipede 3, Final Sequence, and many other films as well as television. Hello.
Hello.
What have we been up to this year?
It's been pretty quiet. I have a couple of things that are coming out. There's a movie called Mope that I think will be really interesting, and then another movie called We Are Boats that I think is premiering at the Napa Film Festival in a couple of weeks. The Mope thing is really an interesting story. It's about these two guys that were in the porn industry, and a mope is a derogatory term referring to those wannabes in porn films that are just sort of hanging around trying to get in the kind of the group scenes. And one of them ends up, well, I don't want to tell you the story, but it's based on a true story, and it's quite something. I think it will be a really provocative film.
Do you think there is an actual tolerance when it comes to like a specific type of roles in order to find a new breath of life in a character?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about your career or is artistically?
Both, actually.
Well, I mean, in terms of artistic, I mean, you basically are using yourself and you're trying to put on, a different outside, meaning, hair, makeup, wigs, wardrobe, all that, and, circumstance, but we're still using ourselves in terms of characters. In terms of the business, I don't know. I mean, I think actors just try to look for roles that, well, first we want to work. That's the hardest thing. I mean, it's really hard to find work. Secondly, we look for things that are interesting, that we think have some kind of a message that, that we can get behind. My thing has always been sort of fighting for the common man. That's always the characters I've been drawn to. And I don't think you ever tire of that. I mean, that's the reluctant hero. It's a pretty heavy-duty category. It covers a lot.
There's a lot of people that think just straightforward to, job, character, job, and so forth. But, there's so many roles, between film and television. Do you think, with the roles that you played between both areas, do you think it's kind of limited in terms of the character itself or felt rushed in between?
No. So I guess you're asking me, do our films allow for more time to flesh out a character than television does? Because you're jumping from show to show? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Well, I would say if you're a guest star on television and you're jumping from role to role, but if you're in a series, you're going to have more time than most film actors have to flesh out a role. You might have 5 or 6 years or 8 or 9 years to flesh out a role. And that's kind of what's become pretty exciting about cable, is that you don't have to play these generic ABC, CBS, NBC, bland, PG-rated characters that we use. That if you wanted to do television, now you can be in a Breaking Bad. Now you can be in some very interesting shows that are very hard-edged, and a lot of time on the character. That's a new thing. That's a great thing.
Yeah, but then sometimes some actors just take an extreme long period just to build up to do these types of characters in film and stuff like that. Do you think this is something that could be a little bit of a problematic, or just go straight forward and just do it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on that. I'm not sure I kind of understand it, but yeah.
When the acting portion, there's always the quote, the comfort zone, and when in terms of roles, do you think having to perform a line or a full act, do you think you kind of have to get rid of that comfort feeling, just go right to that emotion point, just to get it out there?
I don't think that we're ever comfort. I don't know what comfort zone you're talking about. I think anytime you're being filmed or trying to act in a show, it's a very unnatural situation. You're being filmed, you're recreating stuff. I would say none of it's comfortable. There really is no comfort zone, that we're all trying to, it's an unnatural thing to do, act, So in terms of comfort, I don't think comfort is something that actors are looking for.
Yeah, but there's actors that play specific roles, and I don't mean of course it can lead to stereotyping, but I mean they could play mainly cop films or other action-related films or horror.
Give me an example of someone, because I know what you mean, because I'm not quite sure.
You mean of someone, or just an example in general?
A person. Give me an example of an actor that you feel is an example of the situation you're talking about. So
And like I said, I mean, no disrespect or anything, and I know implying anything, but I like Bruce Willis, but he plays in a lot of action-based films. But then you put him in a completely different film that he's not really doing all this kind of stuff in. He still kind of plays the same type of role in some situations.
You mean you feel that he does? You feel that he's always the same in the movies he does?
Correct.
Well, that's the kind of actor he is. I mean, you hire Bruce Willis for that. I mean, if you want to get Daniel Day-Lewis, but even Daniel Day-Lewis, even though he's so different in his characters, when you get into the high level of acting, you can see that he's using the same tools. He's just a little bit more interested in the outside as opposed to just the inside. I mean, at the inside, Bruce Willis also is forced to look for jobs. Sometimes the industry expects a certain thing from you, and, that's what you're hired for. And he does have has to make a living and wants to keep working. And sometimes those are the jobs. I think if you look back on Bruce Willis, if you look at his shows, I mean, he's done some really funny comedies and some interesting stuff, as opposed to just action film.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's just there's other actors that basically just stick with that one. Well, he's ventured out since then, but I mean, like there are other actors out there that have just stuck with just that one genre or that one specific type of role. Maybe that could be their main thing. Maybe that's the only way they can get their job. I don't know, whatever reason. But like what I meant by the being comfortable with that and not venturing out and just testing the water, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the parts they're given and what's asked of them. I'm sure most actors worth their salt are capable of giving you different performances. I don't think it's necessarily the actor that's refusing to go that extra mile.
Now, do you prefer going toward the actual film, or do you actually like being in the television area?
I don't have a preference. I like being on location, so film sometimes is more likely you are to travel. But the thing I like about television, if it's a series and you're a regular on it, I like the fact that the stability of the work environment. Guest starring is very hard. It's very hard work for actors.
Yeah, and sometimes when an actor wants to go to the extreme to play a role or to be the starring role or even a really good supporting role, do you think that sometimes you got to be the problem in order to get the results?
Can you give me an example of what you mean? Because, again, I'm really having a hard time understanding what that question is.
Well, I don't want to name names because I really don't want to get sued.
I'm not saying to name names, but give me an example of an actor doing what it is without naming them. Like, what is it you mean, like an actor?
Well, like basically gaining attention. Let's say an actor would be doing stuff to what they want to do in order to how they want the role done and so forth, just so they can get an actual decent performance for the audience or even for themselves.
Well, I think you want to do the best performance you can for yourself, and then you also want to make the director happy because it's a compromise between the two. I don't know if anyone does anything to be no one wants to be a problem. People just want to try to do their work without being interfered with, but they also want to be a team player. So you walk the line between the two.
Yep.
I mean, if you're talking about someone like a Sean Penn that had a reputation for being difficult on the set, I think, is that kind of what you're talking about, sort of a thing?
I'm not going to lie, that's exactly what I was going to talk about. Just like I said, I didn't want to say names.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that's a lot of that is actors get a raw deal. If you're in the middle of some really heavy-duty scene where you have to be completely broken down emotionally and you're going through, like, for instance, the death of your son or your father or your brother or your sister, and somebody wants to come up to you as you're walking to the camera and they're about to turn it on in 30 seconds, and they all of a sudden, hey, Sean, how you doing? It's like, they don't want to talk to you right then. They've just spent 3 hours in their trailer, getting emotionally ready. They don't have time to talk to somebody on the way to the set. So they might, ask bodyguards to keep people away from them. Now they're considered like difficult people. And I think that there's so many times like that where it's just, again, it's like the news. You turn the news on and they just beat the facts, until they scream whatever their point of view is they want them to scream. For instance, a great example is that actor that was caught yelling at I think it was a DP or a director of photography or a key grip, and I forget his name, and there was tape of him just screaming at the guy because he kept going through his eye line in the back. And the guy, was yelling at him, and the guy kept kind of sloughing off the actor, saying, "Oh, I'm sorry." And it was like, the guy knew better than to do that. That crew person knew that they were messing with that actor, and they shouldn't have been doing that. And that he continued to do it, and then pled, ignorance to the actor, and it really infuriated that actor, and he just wasn't going to have any of it. And it looked like the actor was being, when they showed the tape or whatever, played the tape, it looked like the actor was being unreasonable. No, he had been pushed and pushed and pushed by that guy until being nice. If I go to a movie and an actor, I don't care if the actor was nice or not nice to the craft service guy, I care how his performance was in the movie. They don't read in the credits, "Oh, he was really sweet to the makeup girl." That's not part of the movie. People that get really bad attitudes and are difficult to work with, they end up not lasting. I know an actor that was fired from a TV series that he was the star of and won an Emmy because the crew didn't want to work with him anymore. He was so difficult, so horrible. The producers fired him because they didn't want to have to redo the entire crew. So they fired that lead actor. But that guy was definitely the star of that show, and he was an Emmy winner. They just didn't want to put up with this crap. But it's usually just, hype of the media trying to sell a story about Hollywood and actors being difficult and blah, blah, blah. Everybody can be difficult. You don't have to be an actor to be difficult. When it's taken out of context, it makes them look really bad.
And the worst thing of it all is when the audience starts labeling the actor, when let's say they start liking them from the, let's say from the 80s films to the mid 90s films to the 2000 films that they really enjoy, then they start hating this person because, oh, well, this guy was a douche. It's like, okay, you don't realize what this guy probably went through. Okay, maybe he was just in a bad mood. Maybe he was probably up till 5 o'clock in the morning studying lines for his next role, and then having to take a flight to like 8 o'clock, and then having to get there, and then he can't even go to the bathroom without you like hounding him. Then you want to be a jerk and tell him that he's this and this and this.
Well, and I don't really have that kind of fame, but I can imagine people that do get hounded by other people. I mean, that could be really irritating. Have you ever been somewhere where everybody was asking you for money? Like, have you ever been to a third world country where you are mobbed by 30 kids everywhere you go? I mean, that's really sad, and you want to help the kids out. But after a week of this, 300 kids coming up to you, you start to say, "Get away from me!" And we all get pushed to that point.
And some actors kind of don't be honest about it either. I mean, if you are legitimately in that kind of mood, some people just don't want to be rude back, but sometimes, like you said, sometimes people will push and push until the breaking point. Like, let's say you as an example, like everyone will recognize you from April Fool's Day, right? And you're like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome, that's awesome." It's okay. Well, you get used to it for so much, and then someone might say something a little bit, "Oh well, your acting sucks in there" or something like that. And you, for whatever reason you had that going on that day, and then it goes back to, "Oh well, you're a douche," or I mean, like fame is an ugly sight. It can be a blessing, but it can have an ugly face right behind it for everybody, regardless of how genuine and sweet and kind-hearted you are. It can turn you within the week, within the day, within the minute for what you're doing. Even as a musician, we all know like how bands are, rock bands, metal bands, over the since it started. Same thing with actors. Same thing with even.
I heard a quote once, just to interject here, that fame grows a growth hormone on your character flaws. Do you understand what I mean? What it does is, whoever you are, fame is going to exacerbate that. If you're a great person, fame's going to make you a really great person. If you're kind of a jerk, fame's going to make you a bigger jerk. Whatever you are, fame's going to exaggerate it.
Go ahead and plug in anything that you want to promote, anything that, like I said, go ahead and plug in your project that you recently did, and so forth and so forth.
I don't really care about promoting anything, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, there you go, then. That is Clayton Rhoner, actor, and we shall see you another time, and hopefully this festival will release this on DVD and so forth.
All right. Good luck.